Maneva na say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there osia dem yopo.
Memo akwaba ide ba PENDREAM TV. Make sure say any day di kan ya wo hwe na wo be subscribe to channel no click bell so say the news to our so sabeti me aka ntem no watie. Eye Alhaji ni Alhaji ekoso eye Pan African TV na de omudi kopie mu Tamale Northern region. Now any topic na omo discuss here eye the showdown between Mahama and Bawumia. Esan so mumie no nyina every north na omo debate for dia NPP aye or north and the NDC so aye or north. And no, it was a debate between some NDC MPs and some NPP communicators. And now, move yes, I debate the just hack a video. No, I make us every brave. My person, my boy, now so what will be now? It's interesting discussions. Of course, what North Wabrana host a friend is saying, I tell you, my all down that you may know. Young video.
In the face of the ticket this year are two candidates that were, until this government came into power, from the bigger northern region. Now, one is from northeast, the other is from the Savannah region. So we would like to find out what Tamale has in stock for us. And of course, we are doing that also because one of the longest serving hosts of Alhaji and Alhaji was none other than Alhassan Suhini, who is now member of parliament for Tamale North. And we are being hosted by him and another person that has been a face of Alhaji and Alhaji for so many years, Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. So you can just imagine. I can mention the 4 politicians that currently are members of parliament for the 4 different parts of the northern region. Tamale Central, Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. You know him, right? And then, of course, I talk about Tamale North, Alhassan S. Suhini. And then there is the former minority leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu. And then there is one of the originators of Alhaji and Alhaji, ABA Husseini, member of parliament for Sanyarigo. So today, like I said, let's find out what Tamale has in stock for us. So we'll bring on stage for the next 30 minutes. We'll be having a conversation. We'll be listening to 5 different politicians who currently occupy very strategic positions within the major parties in the northern region. So I'll invite them on stage one after the other. We'll be introducing a topic. The topic has to do with, of course, everybody wants to know what the thoughts of the North is on the matter of 2 persons from the northern part of the country being on the ballot. It's a face-off, no matter how you put it. The Afro-Franto movement is hiding in the background, but it is seen as John Dramani Mahama, former president, versus current vice president, Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia. So that will be our discussion this morning. We'll have a brief discussion with them. So let me welcome on stage first Comrade Mohammed Abdul Salam, who is the Northern Regional Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. Please welcome me with a round of applause. And then let me also welcome on stage his counterpart from the Convention People's Party, Haruna Hamza Kansakumi. And then following him will be the Toulon Constituency Communications Officer of the NDC, Dr. Seydou Fita. Doc. And then let's have Abdul Rahman Karim Pala, who is a communication team member of the New Patriotic Party, join us. And then Mr. Ike Seni, who is the Northern Regional Communication team member of the National Democratic Congress. Now, this is our panel to start off the show with this morning. It will be brief. We'll last 30 minutes. Then we'll introduce our main panel on stage. We do have audience here, and of course, the audience originally heard that we are going to start at 9 a.m. So they are trooping in gradually, but we do have people already seated. And of course, Alhaji and Alhaji, your views are always important. So we'll come to them to share a few views on the issues we'll be discussing. I am Sena Numbo. I have a huge crew behind me. I'll be introducing them. along the show. But let me start this part of it. So let me take a seat. And, well, welcome, gentlemen. Okay. So let me start from the Northern Regional Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. Please pass on a mic to him for me. Okay, he already has a microphone. He is Comrade Mohammed Abdul Salam. Comrade, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, please check his mic for him. So we'll check Comrade's mic, and of course we'll be hearing from them briefly on the 2024 elections. We are already looking at how it will look like. The Convention People's Party is here to elect candidates, I understand, but the New Patriotic Party has already done that. The National Democratic Congress has already done that. We have 3 representatives from the National Democratic Congress, 1 from the NDC, from the New Patriotic Party, and 1 from the CPP. So we'll get a functioning mic. If you're joining us, it's a matter of all talk shows. Alhaji and Alhaji is an early start.
Mahama. There's no doubt about that, because I have said to many, particularly those of us in the north, you have a situation where we are presented with one experienced one with an apprentice younger brother. So Northerners have the benefit of putting forward the elderly experienced one as president, one because he's one who has been president before. He comes back to the presidency with the benefit of having been there before, so it is easier for him to appreciate what went wrong when he was there and what to do given the difficult situation. You have again on the other side, respectfully, our brother, Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who came to the office with so much expectation, so much promises, but today he's being confronted much more with the truth. His elder brother before he's coming into the office of vice president, had indicated when he was being used to talk so much in opposition in pursuit of power. Excellency John Dramani Mahama had the opportunity of questioning both Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia that you two have never been in government before. So it is difficult for you to appreciate what entails with the responsibility of being president. They did not heed to the advice. They went to town shouting loud on promises, promising to take Ghanaians to the Mecca of economic prosperity, if I'm allowed to describe it as so. But today, they are going to exit power, leaving in the hands of the succeeding government, a government that is bereft with debt. Globally, we have missed the point of comparing ourselves to the African giants. We are now being compared to people who have always been at the bottom. Today, pensioners who have sought to find comfort in investing their earnings in bonds and other things had to suffer haircuts. For the first time in the history of our nation, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time that we are hearing in the literature of the discussions of the political discourse something known as a haircut. And I believe not only citizens, even our president himself was confused, because when the minority organized a forum to talk about the challenges facing this nation, and the current minority leader then pointed to the fact that Ghanaians were going to suffer a haircut. We had our president addressing the nation barely 24 hours after that and shouting, there will be no haircut. There will be no haircut. And today the haircuts have come embarrassingly on everybody that have seen the need to invest in government bonds. So clearly, our president himself suffered the consequences of lack of appreciation of what constituted a haircut confronting our economic situation. Today, if the NPP government have anything to brag of, if they have anything to beat their chest about, it comes on the back of huge debt, very huge debt. And I think that connoisseurs of national governance expect that every responsible government is supposed to be one that provides protection for its citizens. Today, you and I cannot beat our chests out publicly that our institutions that are supposed to be responsible for providing protection for us, i.e. the police, i.e. the military, i.e. The independent institution of the judiciary. Now, all these institutions have been filed and filled with what? People of political colors. That when recruitments are being done to the security agencies today, you have lists being provided by political party chairmen, clearly telling you that the place is being pushed and opened up for what? Party activists. To the effect that even appointments to the Electoral Commission, it is no longer a secret that political party communicators can have space there. At the highest point of the judiciary, known political contestants can have space there. What else? What else can the NADO's government leave with us? So I am saying that his apprentice, which is our brother, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, have earned for himself, as far as Google is concerned, the best and the number one speaker of untruth. I don't want to use the word liar. He's our brother. He's been noted for being loud on untruth. The most recent one that I can ask and reference is to far outstrips what government will provide by way of the free education. And I think that we are better off bringing the experienced one. And I believe strongly that not even His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will, in the face of our elders, our chiefs, our opinion leaders, confronted with President Mahama, will be able to speak truth to power, that he stands better providing the needed leadership going into 2025, given what we are confronted with presently. So I believe strongly that as Northerners, we have no choice. No choice can be better than Excellency John Dramani Mahama, because he's been president before, like I said earlier on. Whatever ills confronted his governance, and having to observe the NPP government from being out of power, he's marshaled a lot more experience to come into it running rather than crawling. Okay. I believe that the shocks of governance, as they have hit our brother Bawumia, he will have to be given the opportunity to stay on the touchlines and observe how things are handled in difficult situations, so that he can come back in future. Okay. Then we can be able to test the NPP properly to see, having put him forward as a leader, whether if they lose the 2024 elections, they will still have the courage to allow Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to continue to lead the NPP as a political party.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please hand the mic to Odok. Do you have a mic? Yes. So Dr. Saidu Fita is Tolong Constituency Communications Officer. If you're just joining us, in the matter of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, this is a strictly northern panel. So it's a local panel that we constitute to deal with only one topic. The conversation is around the two main phases that will be on the ballot in 2024. Doc.
Yes, Senna.
Yes.
Let me first of all wish you a Merry Christmas, and to our Christian brothers there, and Happy New Year in advance.
Thank you.
I know and I believe, by the grace of God and with the benefit of long life and good health, that on the 7th of January 2025, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is going to be sworn in again as the President of the Republic of Ghana. And I hold the conviction and firm belief that in 2025, the NDC is going to form majority in Parliament, starting from the Northern region. There's no doubt anywhere that the Northern region is going to be the battlefield in 2024 elections, because the two presidential candidates of the main political parties in Ghana are going to be on the ballot paper to chase for the presidency of the Republic of Ghana. And just like my bigger brother and senior comrade mentioned earlier, we are going to look at the records of each of them. Fortunately for us and the good people of Ghana, Nanado in one of the State of the Nation address mentioned that most of the promises that they made can be associated to the opinion of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia when they were coming to seek for power from the good people of Ghana from
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
We're doing West 4.7 against $1. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and Nana Akufo-Addo now are doing 12.8 to $1 today. So even if we are going to campaign on the dollar to CD depreciation, John Dramani Mahama did much better. In one of the videos in circulation, Nana Akufo-Addo held a ball of kenke, raised it in front of electors, and asked them why they will buy a ball of kenke for 1 Ghana cedis. Go around internally. No food vendor sells kenke for even 3 Ghana cedis. If you want to eat better kenke, a bigger one to satisfy yourself, 1 ball is 5 Ghana cedis. The man who promised to reduce the price of kenke today is doing worse than His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. You come back to corruption. You will count and even get tired. Use Pius as an example. If you can't fight corruption within your own government, you can't even fight your opponents. Pius, a deputy minister of state, of sports specifically, sent over 100 journalists to Australia for a tournament. They provided tax for them. They paid all of them per diem. And when immigration did a proper assessment of all these 150 people, none of them was proven to be a journalist. Pius is still working under this government, and even because of the lack of respect for the good people of Ghana, wanting to go to parliament to represent which people. Again, Charles Bissiu, who is working at the Flagstaff House, was caught under camera by Anas Armia Anas, someone who cannot be sure about his life in Ghana, because anytime at all you come with an expose, the government will find his apparatchiks or foot soldiers to threaten your life. And your colleague Manasseh Azure at a point in time had to leave the shores of Ghana just for the safety of his life. Bissiu was caught under camera receiving huge sums of money from galamseyers and giving clearance to go and do galamsey in our forest. Professor Frenfon Boatin today, Sena, who was the Lands and Environment Minister, came out with a report where he stated that as a minister, he wrote a letter banning small-scale mining in forests in Ghana. And the late Sir John, who was the CEO for Forestry Department, as at the time he was banning it, he was writing letters, giving clearance for people to go and do galamsey in our forest. Bawumia is coming to face us, and we are going to be asking questions as his caution with his boss, as against the performance of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. You know, under us, we did 250 billion of loans. These people have done more than 600 billion of loans. But even in Northern Region alone, we have a Tamale International Airport to brag with. In Tamale alone, we have a phase 1 and phase 2 of Tamale Teaching Hospital, which increased our bed capacity to 800. In Northern Region, we have the Eastern Corridor route to brag with. In Northern Region, when you are going to Yendi, you stop at Miang, you have an E-block. You go to the Boyman Kargo, you have an E-block. You have development littered all over in Northern Region. Ask the NPP one project they have brought out of the over 600 billion loans they have accrued into our public debt. Now, Senna, before they came to power, you know the Ghana-Dubai, the circle interchange. We commissioned that before we went into opposition. They said they were going to do a similar one in Tamale. When they came with the architectural design at the Jubilee Park, the chiefs, our revered chiefs, were there. I was there also. And they promised the good people of Tamale a similar one to that of the circle interchange. You can go and see the bridge they have left for us. And even with that, they promised they were going to use Sano Hydro, exchanging our bauxite to make money to do it. But you know, when IMF came to look at our debts, they said we should add that because Sano Hydro hasn't even given us 1 peswa to land before you come in.
Okay.
Mr. Karim, my dear friend and colleague, his hometown is Yendi. His hometown. They don't even have potable water to drink. His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo came to Northern Region, went to Yendi, stood at a school which was established by Jerry Rawlings and given a boarding facility by Professor Mills, and promised them of potable drinking water. Yendi. And the reservoir was supposed to be situated at Ngani. He gave timelines. He failed on his own timeline. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia came and reiterated the timelines. They failed again. And you know the excuse they are now giving. Sena, they have reduced the politics.
Okay.
And now saying that the spirits of Ngani are not allowing them to give them the reservoir. When they put a pickaxe on the ground, water will not come out. This is so interesting. Now, and I can tell you, when Mr. Karim gets the opportunity, he should tell us, 99% of roads given to the good people of Yendi was given to them by the NDC government. When you are going to Zabzugu, on your left, they were having a store that they were referring to as a bank. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama gave them a state-of-the-art bank, commercial bank and NIB. They erected a party pavilion at a place where they thought that nobody could even move them and bring any development project there. When we went to sack them, they were trying to paint it political. We did our best. We moved them. We gave them a state-of-the-art market stores, which is occupied by NPP people. These are the projects that we did with the loans that we accrued. Dr. Mahmoud, but when we ask questions, finally, do you know what? He promised the king, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. He stood in front of the king of Dagbon and promised him an airstrip. And told him that, look, Senna, let me learn on this one. It's interesting for you to know.
Thank you very much, Doc.
Let me learn on this.
Thank you.
Let me learn on this.
Thank you,
and
Doc.
told him, Senna, that he will no more come to Tamale to pick a flight to Accra. He will be flying from Yendi. And gave him timelines. That too has failed. What is he coming to tell the good people of the Northern Region to vote for them?
Doc, thank you. Thank you. Please hand over the mic to our comrade from the Convention People's Party. And please let me extend a warm welcome to our guests who are arriving in the hall this morning to be part of Alhaji and Alhaji live from Tamale. We are at the event hall of Picona Hotel. Our comment from the CVP.
Yeah, good morning, Sena, and welcome to Tamale.
Thank you.
And let me say good morning to our audience and viewers out there. First of all, I would want to crave your indulgence and to say good morning to my regional chair who is watching at home, and the entire CPP regional executives who are also watching. Some of them are also here to watch live. I also want to use this opportunity to guide and guard myself through this discourse by craving another indulgence to say the national pledge. That is what I do when I go on radio and TV. I promise on my honor to be faithful and loyal to Ghana, my motherland. I pledge myself to the service of Ghana with all my strength and with all my heart. I promise to hold in high esteem our heritage won for us through the blood and toils of our fathers. And I pledge myself in all things to uphold and defend the good name of Ghana. So help me God. In fact, when I say this, it helps me to go through the discourse without fear or favor. In fact, the topic that you've tabled has to do with the two gentlemen from the north who are flag bearers of the NDC and the NPP. Unfortunately for my dear party CPP and the dearest party of Ghana, we are still going through recession and preparing ourselves to get somebody to represent us as the flag bearer. Whatever the time may be, we would indeed have somebody to represent us. Dr. Bawumia, who represents the NPP, is a Northerner, and His Excellency former President Mahama is also a Northerner. In fact, it's a good thing for us Northerners to have two strong sons of Northern Ghana as flag bearers of the strongest, in quotes, political parties in Ghana. But the question is, how happy are we as Northerners to have these two gentlemen represent us at the highest level of politics? What is it that we would be doing to ensure that this particular gentleman truly represent Northern region? First of all, I want to separately engage each of them to let us know what they represent. First, I'll start with the flag bearer of the NPP. He's a nice gentleman, and I've always said, whatever is Northern, I stand for it. So I will be with Dr. Bawumia as a Northerner, only and only if he stands for the truth and he stands as a Northerner. Because we all know the Northern region is the home of truth. But if you look at the politics around Dr. Bawumia and his representation as a Northerner in politics of Ghana, it comes with a lot of question marks. Dr. Seydou Fita and my elder brother, Mr. Salam, have done justice to his statements and his promises as far as what he will be able to do or what his party will be able to do to Ghana. But you would realize that most of what he has said has not come to pass. Ghana, in the yesteryears, in the years of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, was a one state. Today, Ghana is no more a state. It's a divided state which consists of different groups. And I think that that is bad for Mother Ghana. This particular gentleman in contention is also playing through that, same route. And I think that it is not good for Mother Ghana. For us to grow, we need to have a centralized government. And for that matter, we need to have, a manifesto that would have all Ghanaians included. We should not have individual party manifestos. In 1954, when Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was the Prime Minister of Ghana, like I said earlier, he tried as much as he can to make or to carve out a centralized government, which was fought. by this particular gentleman's group. They fought it through the formation of a group known as the NLM, National Liberation Movement, which was seeking to say that for Ghana to be centralized, every citizen of this country would have to enjoy from the natural resources that Ghana has given, God has given Ghana. So they thought that it was not prudent for us as Northerners to also enjoy, say, the gold that is elsewhere in some part of Ghana. So I think that was bad, and we needed at this particular moment to have people who will stand like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah to fight for Ghana.
Okay.
But looking at Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, I don't see that in him.
Please, you have a minute to wrap up for me.
Now, let me jump onto Comrade, former President Mahama. He has represented this country before. He has played his role as far as developing the nation is concerned. And I wonder why we would still want to have such a person or a personality to represent us in the top hierarchy of this nation. We need to have him changed so that he will be able to represent Ghana very well. What is it that what is it that former President Mahama is bringing on board that we, the people of Ghana, and for that matter, comrades in CPP, would have to see in him to believe that when he comes on board, we would see a change in what he has done before. We have seen that he has played his role, his part, and for that matter, somebody else would have to come. And that is why we still and we continue to say that the CPP is the only political party that can salvage the people of this country and let us believe in the centralized government that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah tried in 1954 to bring on board. Okay. Until that is done, Ghana will continue to dwindle in the hands of the so-called political parties that are, in quotes, called the strongest.
Okay.
So until we do that, Ghana would have issues.
Thank you. I've run out of time for this part, so briefly, you have 5 minutes specifically. Our friend from the New Patriotic Party. I know you have a lot to say, but 5 minutes. Please hand me the mic.
First of all, let me say good morning to you and good morning to the listenership and the viewers of Alhaji and Alhaji. It baffles my mind when the General Secretary and the Communication Officer of the NDC, the biggest opposition party in Ghana, clearly says President Mahama needs another time. You see, you agree with me that when it comes to issues of whose statements should be considered serious, it will rather be John Mahama, not General Salam, and not Seydou Fita. You agree with me, and listeners will agree with me. Let your production team check Joy News, 16th August 2026. President Mahama says, and I quote, 4 years is not enough for any president. That is what President Mahama said. President Mahama may be having fantastic ideas, but my brothers in the NDC shouldn't forget that time is not a friend. And Ghanaians mean business. President Mahama in Yulobo, in the western region, I'm going to quote him for the sake of time. He says, and I quote, 4 years is not enough for any president. My first 10 as a president, my records will show that when you give me another time, I'll be able to deliver. The people of Ghana saw no need to renew his mandate. He was sacked. Today he's coming back again. Again, you agree with me that when it comes to the issues of whose statements are valid, as far as Joyce Bauer Muktari and the communication officer for Tolang are concerned, you will vouch for George Bawa Muktari. Because as we speak, she is a staffer in President Mahama office, and she draws salaries from the coffers of Ghana. And listen to what she says. Let your production team check again. His Excellency and the flag bearer of the NPP is having 8 years. So if we need Ghana to be developed, 8 years and 4 years, who are we giving the opportunity? The only record as far as President John Dramani Mahama is concerned, and Ghanaians indeed can recollect, has to do with the fact that he introduced innocent graduates to 3 months pay policy. Okay. Your senior brother, my younger brother, my junior brother would have worked for 1 year and he'll be paid for 3 months. So this is what we want to visit on ourselves again. Yeah. Is this what the General Secretary and the Tolan Constituency Officer is saying?
Like I say, clearly you have a lot to say, but unfortunately I'm out of time for this. So I apologize, Mr. Sey.
But you know what? You gave General Salem more than 5 minutes. Say the fitter. And you know, I'm facing 3 solid guys from the NDC. So Shabi, you are not fair to me, and I know listeners will definitely tell you are not fair to me. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sey, we would have loved to listen to you, but unfortunately I'm out of time for this particular segment. And I guess we'll have time to talk. Thank you. Thank you. Unfortunately, I have to go. I have to end this part of the program for today. And a big thank you to you, everybody. Dr. Seidu Fita, who is Tolan Constituency Communication Officer on my extreme left, on my extreme right. IK, of course, Haruna Hamza Kasankumi, who is Northern Regional Secretary of the Convention People's Party. There's Comrade Mohammed Abdul Salam, who is Northern Regional Secretary of the NDC. There is, of course, IK Seni, Northern Regional Communication Team Member of the NDC, and Abdul Rahman Karim Pala, who is Communication Team Member of the New Patriotic Party. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Well, this is the Matter of All Talk Shows live from the events hall of Picona Hotel here in the center of Tamale. And we'll introduce our panel shortly.
Of the National Democratic Congress, NDC. The constituency is a stronghold of the political party since the seat has only been occupied once by an independent candidate since the commencement of the Fourth Republic. Honorable Alhassan Saibu Suhini has been a member of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority as well as a communication manager on the Hajj Board. He was also on the Appointments Committee and Lands and Forestry in the 7th Parliament. He is presently an Appointments Committee member and the Deputy Ranking for Lands and Forestry in the 8th Parliament. Like many constituencies across the country, Tamale North has seen some semblance of development. However, due to the vast expanse of the constituency, coupled with the fact that the constituency consists of rural and urban settlements, which yearns for basic social infrastructure more.
He is the Redeemer. He has labored. He has
live on television. Good morning to you, and thank you very much for choosing Pan-African Television. We are also live on Radio Gold 90.5 FM in Accra. Here in Tamale, we are of course live on Diamond FM. They've been our partners for Alhaji and Alhaji for so long. You can listen to us live on Diamond FM here in Tamale. I said here in Tamale because we are at the event hall of Picona Hotel at the center of Tamale, and we welcome you. And I'd like to say a big welcome to our guests who have joined us. I will start with Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed to do the necessary welcome address and of course go on to the topics we'll be discussing. But before that, once again, welcome if you are here. We'll come to you at some point to hear your comments on the discussions we'll be having on the Matter of All Talk Shows. Tamale.
Before I begin to comment, I want to take the opportunity to introduce to you and also the viewing public the distinguished personalities who are here and seated to observe Alhaji and Alhaji live in Tamale. And the chiefs are many, and distinguished individuals are also many. So I would just introduce but few. So if I am not able to mention the name of any chief or any distinguished personality, as your grandson, you would pardon me. We have in our midst, comrade, the chief of the Pema, who is also my grandfather, whose territory in which we are having this occasion. His Royal Highness, the chief of the Pema, is here with us. And also we have Nyabe Tolana, who is also here, a distinguished personality and educationist, who is also here to see how we're going to have this Alhaji and Alhaji. His Royal Highness Nyabe Tolana is here with us. And also Nyabe Sanargo Kukona, a distinguished personality who are also ardent listeners of Alhaji and Alhaji, who is here with us, and many other chiefs. Of course, I cannot indeed go with this introduction without mentioning my father, a very distinguished person in Tamale. I don't know what I would describe him as, an Islamic scholar or a philanthropist, Alhaji Abdullah, and he's also here with us, and many other distinguished personalities. So if I'm not able to mention any name, pardon me, maybe in the course of the program we will introduce other dignitaries who are here. And as the MP for Tamale Central, we also have our constituency chairman, the Tamale Central, Tamale South, Sanargu, Tamale North, and in fact we also have even Savulgu constituency chairman and other constituencies who have all come to witness this program. We have our women organizers and many other people who necessarily are not aligned to any political party, who are also religiously, listening to Alhaji and Alhaji from Radio Gold to Pan-Africa TV and the media. As the MP for Tamale Central and MP for Tamale South, unfortunately we do not have our brother MP for Sanargo. He would have loved to be here, but I think in the course of the program, the candidate for Sanargo would also be given the opportunity to make an input. And our senior brother, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, who would have also loved to be here. So on behalf of all these, my brothers, I want to thank Pan-Africa TV, thank Radio Gold, and most importantly, Senior Kosi Pratt, for having identified Tamale to be the place you should have this enormous program being held. Out of the 16 regions, you thought it wise to having it in Tamale. We are profoundly grateful. The people of the North have been getting their information, accurate, reliable information on national issues, political issues, economic issues, on Pan-Africa TV, particularly Alhaji and Alhaji. So we are profoundly grateful that you have chosen Tamale, you have chosen Northern Region to have this program. We are very grateful. So without much ado, I would want to get into the topic. And the topic I'm told we are looking at has to do with the national economy. And Sena, in his introduction, indicated that the national economy can be looked at in two ways, not necessarily the economy, but also the political aspects of our growth as a people. Because of the limited, time that we each would have, I would want to look at it in two perspectives. This country has been a country that existed several decades, if not centuries ago. But my focus is going to be on the Fourth Republic, when we have all chosen as a state to go democratically. Ghana has experienced the two major systems of governance. That is the parliamentary system and the presidential system. Before independence, when we were under the subjugation of the so-called colonial masters, they ruled us with the Queen as the higher or the authority that she had at that time over the so-called colonies. When we liberated ourselves politically and economically, we were still going with the parliamentary system, where the president himself is elected as a member of parliament. He appears before parliament at a point in time. And in the United Kingdom, you can see that the prime minister appears to parliament on every Wednesday. So we had that system. And then when Nkrumah, unfortunately, was criminally and illegally overthrown, then we moved into another system of governance. And with the parliamentary system, Second Republic, we decided to go through the presidential system. So we have tried both systems. But 1992, we collectively agreed that because of the defects or the limitations we have experienced in both the parliamentary system and the presidential system, we decided to come out with a hybrid system. That is the combination of both the parliamentary system and the presidential system. The hybridity of the system indeed comes with some conditions. And Pandis will tell you that we have some challenges with regards to our democracy because of how the constitution was carved. Few countries have indeed practiced this system. Now, whatever the cases, haven't practiced the two systems and haven't considered the limitations of each and haven't agreed that we must come with a combined system of governance. We have practiced this at least over 30 years now. The first time we had elections was in 1992, 1996, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020. That was the last we have. The next one we'll be looking at is the 2024 elections, which is part of the topic we are looking at today. Now, what is significant is not just to lead, but every government comes with a policy. And that policy is certainly or ought to be anchored on the ideological position of the party which is given the authority to govern. The 1992 Constitution says, among others, in fact, if you look at the preamble, and my auntie, who is a lawyer, will tell you that the preamble says, among others, that the authority that is given to the president is just a vested authority. He or she exercises that authority for and on behalf of the people. So it means that if you are elected as a president, the authority with which you govern, it is not authority that is created by you. It's authority that is given to you by the people who have given you the mandate to govern. Now, every political party, as ought to be, your policy decisions should be anchored on the ideological position of your party. And that is what happens in many democracies. I am a member of NDC. I believe in the social democratic principles. And therefore, everything the NDC does should be anchored on the social democratic principles of ideology. And social democratic simply, and if I want to put it in the simple terms, you ensure that there is social equity for everybody. It doesn't matter whether you are rich or poor. There should be equity and distribution of state resources. And the ultimate objective of every government is to improve the living conditions of your people. Our traditional authorities, their ultimate objective is to ensure that within their territories, people who live there live in comfort and in peace and in stability. That is what every government is expected to do. Now, if the objective is to improve the living conditions of your people, how do you achieve that? You achieve that first and foremost by expanding your economy, growing it, and while the economy expands or grows, opportunities are created, jobs are created. And once jobs are created, what happens? The disposable income in the hands of people can be improved so that they can meet basic needs. But you cannot do that if you don't have political stability. And the only way you can achieve that is to factor into your manifesto. These are the political agenda I want to pursue. So the people will look at in that particular agenda and decide whether they must give you the mandate to govern or not. We experienced this in the previous elections we have had, that we assumed, presumably, that people voted for the political parties based on the manifestos they presented. Fortunately or unfortunately, Ghana has multiple political parties. But we have had only two political parties that have had the opportunity to govern this country since 1992. And that is the NDC and the NPP. So if Ghanaians collectively think that democracy politically has not inured to the benefit of the Ghanaian people, I think that it will be humbling to admit that those of us who belong to these two political parties, that we might have failed the people of this country. But if Ghanaians think that, okay, there has been some improvement in the living conditions of the people of this country, then we can knock our chest and say that, yes, the democracy that we have practiced, it is yielding some needed benefits. And I think that we need to collectively, as actors of NDC and NPP, to admit that the challenges confronting us are challenges that can only be found solution to if we look at the policy that we carved, politically and economically, for the purposes of we given the mandate to govern. And Senna, permit me to just quote Albert Einstein, who once said that the significant problems that confront us can never be solved with the thinking we had when we created them. What it simply means is that the problems confronting us are not problems that are created by anybody, but they are our own problems. Of course, some would argue that colonialism has also brought about systemic challenges that confront us. But can we continuously blame colonialism for the challenges that are confronting us? Yes, to some extent. But largely, if we had political freedom, what were the initiatives that were done by the political elite at that time to ensure that we completely break from the shackles of colonialism that inhibited our growth as a people? Now, we need to look at what Nkrumah did. Nkrumah was not just looking at political freedom, but his focus was also economic freedom. What were the plans he put in place to achieve the liberation economically? He came with a 5-year development plan, in fact, and again 7-year development plan. Unfortunately, my good brother who is sitting here and their forefathers truncated that process. If they had allowed the process to proceed, I don't think that Ghana would have been where we are. Of course, when we raised the issue, they say Nkrumah declared one-party state. But Nkrumah never came out and said, I'm going to have one-party state. That was what the people of this country, through their representatives, demanded. They felt that the only way we could develop this country and achieve the objectives set by Nkrumah for the purposes of having political emancipation and economic emancipation was to have a one-party state. So the decision to govern this country through one-party state was decided by Parliament. And parliamentarians are the representatives of the people. I represent the people of Tamale Central. My brother represents the people of Tamale North. We don't have a choice of our own. Whatever national decision that we want to participate in taking, we must take a decision that resonates with the people we represent, not what resonates with us. So the decision to have a one-party state was a decision that was collectively agreed by the masses of the people of this country through their representatives in Parliament. Because it's funny sometimes when people argue that yes, Nkrumah declared one-party state. At the time when they condemned Nkrumah, they were hailing Efo Boanyi. Efo Boanyi had already declared one-party state in Ivory Coast. Many of the countries that indeed achieved some economic growth, they had one leaders who ruled those countries for decades. We are being reminded the Asian tigers. How did they have those successive stories? They had those success stories because of the economic policies they put in place. The question I ask myself and I ask everybody, do we have a national agenda? If we have a national agenda, how do we all strive towards achieving that national agenda? I was fortunate to have participated in the drafting of the 40-year development plan, which indeed President Mahama put in place, led by Dr. Nimoy Thompson. The Minister for Trade was supposed to be a representative at the meeting, but I was delegated by my minister, Honorable Dr. Spiu Gabra, to represent him in all the meetings of the National Development Planning Committee. And I remember the first day I attended the meeting, the individuals I saw gave me some glimmer of hope. You had people from academia who had nothing to do with our main political actors or political activism in Ghana. You had people in industries. You had private individuals who neither belonged to NDC nor NPP. And in fact, you had leading members of NPP who participated in drafting the 40-year development plan. When this development plan was drafted, and unfortunately NDC lost the elections in 2016, I was seated at home watching TV, and that was in February 2017. Then President Nanado became the President of the Republic of Ghana. Nimoy Thompson and his team went to the Flagstaff House and presented to the President the 40-year development plan. And these were the words of President Nanado. And I want to paraphrase. He says, among others, that I have never seen a comprehensive national development plan such as what you have presented to me. These were the words of President Nanado. Unfortunately, and I want to believe, after they left the Flagstaff House, he looked around, saw the closest dustbin, and dumped the National Development Plan in that dustbin. Because the question is, if the president himself said that he had never seen a comprehensive national development plan such as the one which was presented to him, I shudder to think that the president would have read that national development plan, because they were leading members of NPP who participated. And I knew that a copy was sent to him before the official presentation was done. Now, if in the heart of the president, he believed in what President Mahama asked the National Development Plan Committee to do, I don't think that would have had any problem. What I can prefer, that what we need to do as members of the legislative arm, and I'm happy I'm here with my brother Honorable Soyene, we have a moral duty and a responsibility to ensure that we enact the needed laws that will compel political parties to craft their manifestos based on that which is captured in that 40-year national development plan. Because if you're able to do that, then there can be a way by which we can develop this country. If not, it will just be like a blind man, unfortunately, who is peddling a canoe in the middle of a sea or a river without having anybody to direct him or her. That is how we have been developing this country. If all our political parties are going to fashion out our manifestos based on what is captured in the National Development Plan, for me, that is the way by which we can have a total political emancipation and economic growth in our developmental trajectory. And for me, that is one suggestion, and I think that we can all do collectively. But the question is, the Fourth Republic. We have looked at the weaknesses, difficulties, and challenges we have experienced. We have three arms of government. And those three arms, including myself and my brother, and those of us, fortunately, who are in Parliament today, must also take responsibilities of the country's inability to be able to do some of the things we are expected to do. The three arms of government, which is made up of the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, we have agreed to charter the path of democracy. So what it simply means, that never again should this country be ruled by a military dictatorship. Democracy comes with some conditions. And Professor Montesquieu, John Locke, and co., they propounded theories that talks about the separation of powers and the theories of checks and balances. Their focus and definition of the separation of powers simply means that these three arms, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, must have equal powers. And that equal powers must ensure what the conflict, especially if we say detente. The judiciary, which is made up of the judges, the police, and others. The legislature, which is made up of the members of parliament. And if you come to the local level, assemblymen, because we are practicing decentralization. And the executive, which is made up of the president and his ministers and appointees. That we must all have equal powers, such that one should not have more powers than the other. And that is the only way we can develop. Now, even having agreed this, one of the most important arms in a democracy is legislature. That is parliament. You can have a government without parliament, but you cannot have democracy without parliament. In a military dictatorship, you have the president and his appointees who are there. You have the judiciary that is operating, but you won't have parliament. But when we agree to charter the path of democracy, parliament is sine qua non in achieving democratic growth and development. The question is, are we that independent? Have we demonstrated the level of independence? Are we been able to do that which is expected of us to ensure that this separation of powers that we have preached on time and again is achieved to its maximum, benefit? My question is, unfortunately and sadly, we haven't been able to do so. And we haven't been able to do so, one, through the weakness that we experience in Parliament, and most importantly, our democratic and constitutional architecture. The 1992 Constitution says that the President must appoint at least 50% of his ministers from Parliament. What it simply means is that at least 50% or more of ministers should be members of Parliament. So you have people who are contesting to be elected as members of Parliament. Not necessarily that they have a yearning desire to represent the people as members of Parliament, but they see Parliament as one of the means by which they can become members of the executive. So someone is contesting. He is not just interested in representing his constituents. He thinks that once he becomes a member of Parliament, it is easy, or the chances that decision, because that would be double standard. Even at cabinet, if he was a lone voice who was against it, once that decision is taken at cabinet level, it becomes a decision binding on him as a member of the executive. So when he comes to parliament, you cannot see him kicking against the very decision that was taken at cabinet. And I think that one of the ways by which our political liberation as a democracy, as a country that has decided to charter a part of democracy, that weakness is occasioned by the same democratic architecture. And unfortunately, the weakness found space in the highest law of the land, that is the Constitution. So, Senna, one of the challenges we face in terms of our weaknesses as a country that chartered a part of democracy is the very Constitution, because the Constitution serves as an insulbeg on the hands of the executive in terms of the legislature in terms of doing what they are supposed to do. Now, since the year 2020, every government is supposed to present a budget to Parliament. When you present a budget to Parliament, that budget would have to be scrutinized. And then you take a decision whether that budget should be approved or not. It comes first in a policy statement. So what we approve first is what is described as a budget, is the policy statement of the government. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. You debate and you approve or you reject. If you have approved it, it doesn't give the executive the control to spend. You must approve that which is called appropriation, so that each ministry and agency would then present A, B, C, D they want to do. Now, they don't just present the estimates of the ministries and agencies. What they present first is the expenditure return. Last year, we gave you this amount of money. What did you use the money to do? Why are you asking for more? Why are you not asking for more? You must provide justification why you think that Parliament should give you more money or Parliament should reduce the amount of money that is given to you. That is where the work of members of Parliament is critical. Unfortunately, and sadly once again, the constitutional architecture denies Parliament that independence to do what is right for the people they represent. And why do I say that? I say that because simply, I am in Parliament for and on behalf of the NDC. My brother Suhini is in Parliament for and on behalf of NDC. When we were filing to contest as members of Parliament, the filing fee, alhamdulillah, we could have afforded, but we didn't pay our filing fee. Our filing fees were paid by the NDC. So your filing fee is paid by the party. So when you take a decision and the party decides to sack you from the party, you lose your seat as a member of Parliament. Once the party sacks you, may God forbid, if NDC decides that we are sacking Mutala from NDC and took that decision and sacked me from the party, I will cease to be a member of Parliament for Tamale Central. My seat will be declared vacant. In 2006, interestingly, this same hall, I contested the NDC parliamentary primaries to be elected as the NDC parliamentary candidate for Tamale Central in this hall. And sometimes when I look at the pictures, I didn't know how young I was looking at that time. What occasioned that was my father, my grandfather, my lecturer, Professor Waiseni, decided to defect from NDC to NPP. And the moment he did that, the NDC National Executive took a decision, sacked him from the party, and that occasioned the by-elections in 2006, for which I was a participant in the NDC primaries. So that constitutional arrangement also denies members of Parliament their independence. It denies them. Because, so whatever decision you take in Parliament must be a decision that is in sync with the party you represent. That, I must say, and sincerely, is not so much democratic enough. In other countries, in United Kingdom, for example, in many other countries, you can defect from a political party and still maintain your seat until the lifespan of that parliament ends. We have an outstanding personality, George Galloway, who opposed the invasion of Iraq by America and United Kingdom because the invasion was occasioned through pact of lies. We all know what senior comrade Kwesi Pratt and co did in Ghana as their opposition to it. George Galloway was a member of the Labour Party. He opposed it strongly, but the Labour Party didn't say we are sacking you from the Labour Party because you did that. They could only wait for the next elections. So for us to have a liberation, politically and economically, we must look at our constitutional arrangement and our democratic architecture. For me, Senna, that is very significant. Another aspect of our democracy has to do with the whip system. In Parliament, you have majority whip and minority whip. They must take a decision, the line you took. And there's something they call the 3 whip lines. You can feel strongly about something, but once your majority or minority whip says this is the line we take, you can only be suffocating internally. You can't speak outwardly or oppose it. Because once you do that, your party may sack you. So now, as to what we have been able to do this year, in terms of the economic development, looking at the political aspects, I think that the challenges that we have experienced over the years, and of course, 2020 is not an exception. First and foremost, has to do with our constitutional arrangement and our democratic architecture. For me, that has brought a problem. Now, let's look at the political parties. I represent the NDC. I'm on this program representing my party. He's on this program representing the Butterfly Fraternity. On this program, everything I say must be in sync with the party I represent. So permit me, Senna, to look at what the NDC did and what the NPP did in terms of this political growth and look at the economic growth. I don't know how many minutes I have now to conclude. 5 minutes. So 5 minutes, that is too much a time. I would just see if I'll be able to pack them. Now the NDC, within the period of 2008, when we won the elections, under Prof. Mills as the presidential candidate and the president and President Mahama as the vice president. Now the NDCs ruled between 2009 to 2016. One of the reasons why the NDC lost elections was my brother. At that time, he was still with the NPP fraternity. They came with pact of lies. And you have Ed Boll, a parliamentarian in the United Kingdom, who says, voters don't vote deliveries, they vote promises. That's what voters vote. They don't vote what you have done, they vote what you promised them you'll be able to do. Under President Mills, one of the difficulties President Mills' administration faced within NDC was because he felt that we needed to charter a different path. He brought about political discipline and decency in our governance. He says, look, MMDC stay at post until we sanitize the system and then we can appoint new DCs. He says that witch hunting should be done away with. And therefore, as a democracy, when people are engaged in infractions, allow the laws to take its path. All these things were done. Some leading members within MPP, including our founder, were not happy about the posture of President Mills and President Mahama in terms of allowing some of these things to happen. And that created some problems within the NDC. You could find semblance of what we expect to see in a democratic state. Unfortunately, the moment President Nana Addo won the elections in 2016, they started the barbarism, political barbarism, the hooliganism, the attacks. People who were apolitical, who were holding positions by dint of their expertise and capacities, they were all asked to go. They chased people out. Sada in Tamale is a classical example. We do know that tricycles were taken, and I never knew that tricycles could also fly to Burkina Faso or to Ivory Coast. You had MPP young people in this country, in this region, who went and ransacked those places. The one thing people expected President Nana Addo to do at that time, someone who had once been a minister of foreign affairs, was at least to condemn that. He didn't only remain silent, he aided and abetted what they were doing. That was the beginning of the challenge. Now one would expect that all those things that happens today, as we see today, and I'm saying this sincerely, you find it difficult to look around to see a semblance of decency in democratic governance. You don't find that any longer. Apart from the political witch hunting, people were transferred forcefully. regardless the contributions they made in those aspects. One of the reasons and some of the lies that your party, including my good brother, what you guys peddled, you said President Mahama had appointed family and friends, and I'm happy. My auntie Joyce Bauer is here. I call her my auntie because of my mother. Joyce Bauer was the only family member who worked in President Mahama's administration, and that is the niece. Now, this wouldn't have been an issue. President Nanado in February 2016 in Kumasi stated that he was not going to run family and friends government. And the only point of reference was Honorable Joyce Bauer, who was a lawyer in praxis 18 years before she was appointed a deputy minister. Now, what did we see under this administration in the first term? President Nanado appointed all manner of family members, including the daughter. Now today, I told my friend on a program before that the only way you can get appointment in MPP if you swear affidavit and add Ofuriata to your name. I was considering adding Ofuriata to my name, Ibrahim Murtala Muhammad Ofuriata. The moment you add Ofuriata to your name, you can get any contract, you can get any appointment in this government. One of the reasons why some of them were insulated from the booty that is being grabbed left, right, and center was because they didn't have Ofuriata in their names. And you know, my senior brother, Dr. Bawumia, he was the one who peddled some of this falsehood using the media. Central University College made their auditorium available to Dr. Bawumia to peddle those falsehood, those voodoo economics every day. Every single accusation made against President Mahama has come to hound them. And then I'll conclude on the economic trajectory, just briefly in 2 minutes. One of the reasons and why Ghanaians believed, they said we had escalated inflation, the economy was run agog, we were engaged in corruption, President Mahama and the wife have hotels in Dubai, all manner of stories were peddled. As we see today, they haven't even seen a receptionist of a hotel owned by President Mahama in Dubai. So it is clearly a lie. Dr. Opuni, a press conference was held. And that press conference was addressed by the former Minister for Agri, that Dr. Opuni had squandered $400 million money of Cocoa Board. Dr. Opuni is being prosecuted. $400 million has not been found in any of the reasons for which Dr. Opuni is being prosecuted. $400 million is so much money. Inflation, you took it from NDC at 15% today. Inflation is hovering around 70%. Debt to GDP was a little over 60% under the NDC. Today, debt to GDP, it went to even 104%, and it has indeed come down to somewhere around 70 to 80%. In fact, if you look at Ministry of Trade, a ministry that I had the privileged opportunity to be appointed by President Mahama to be a deputy minister. Under the Ministry of Trade, the NDC was spending a little over $500 million in the importation of rice and poultry products into this country. A little over $500 million. Within 6 years, this government, this incompetent and corrupt government, this government which disastrous economic management committee is headed by another incompetent liar, Dr. Bawumia. You are spending over $2 billion in the importation of something that President Mahama was spending a little over $500 million to import into this country. As we see today, every aspect of the economy you have run it agog. Unemployment under the NDC was a little over 8%. You say President Mahama has messed up the economy. Today, unemployment is hovering. In fact, the census figures was around 17.4. Today, unemployment is hovering around 13%. The least said about youth unemployment, the better. So you have run down, this government has run down every aspect of this economy. Nothing could be beneficial than the 24-hour economy President Mahama is introducing against 2024. And Sana, just 30 seconds. The 24-hour economy, to be very honest, we have heard them argued that when you say 24-hour economy, what do you mean? A little boy growing up in Tamale, I knew fuel stations were run 24 hours. I knew that in this country, in this region, in Tamale and Tangod were in Tamale, people could run their businesses 24 hours. The difference between the 24-hour economy that was selectively run by individuals and what President Mahama is proposing, the state, this is the first time we have a national policy towards having a 24-hour economy. Okay. When you see pharmaceutical companies and fuel stations that run 24 hours economy today, they spend money to provide their own security. What President Mahama says, that the security is going to be provided by the state. President Mahama, and therefore, the money you would have spent hiring a security, you will no longer spend that money to hire a security. President Mahama never said that every state institution is going to be run 24 hours. But state institutions that are already running 24 hours, if you go to MPS at Tema Harbor, once again, which is the baby of President Mahama, the yield, the productivity is so huge. You have a minister, a regional chairman of a party, who indeed tried to make our wives, our women, as sex objects, and said that he's going to deny us the opportunity to sleep with our women every day. Unfortunately, President Nanado didn't have the decency to condemn such xenophobic, such disastrous statement. The 24 hours is going to create the needed jobs. The 24 hours is going to provide job opportunities for young people who do not have jobs. And I'll conclude, Senator, by making reference to the NDC manifesto. If you read page 104 of the NDC 2020 manifesto, the 24 hours was proposed. Go and read the 40-year development plan of the NDC. The National Development Plan, the 40-year National Development Plan, which I was an active participant. The NDC had already, through the National Development Plan, indeed proposed a 24-hour economy. I think it is very clear that the good people of this country will choose between what is being presented to them and what President Mahama presented to them. The 2024 elections are going to be campaign based on facts, not propaganda. The certain is that all the political parties have chosen their candidates now, except CPP and other parties. But between these two political parties, the difference between the NDC candidate and the MPP candidate is one is honest, one is a pathological liar. The one can be a Muslim today, he'll be a Muslim in the morning, be a Christian at noon, be a Jew in the evening, be a Zoroastrian at midnight, be a Buddhist at dawn. He must take his position. This country is a secular state, and the NDC has demonstrated it doesn't matter where you are coming from. It doesn't matter your religious persuasion. What is important is that you belong to that which posterity will judge. And that is the reason why the difference between the NDC and the MPP is like daylight and deep dark night. So the people of this country, and I urge you that support the NDC, the MPP people themselves are crying. Everybody is crying. And I thank you so much. And once again, I need to thank Pan Africa TV and Comrade Kwesi Pratt for bringing this home. This is the home of Pan Africa TV and Radio Gold. This is the home of Alhaji and Alhaji. Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me that little much time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Please pass on the mic to Honorable Alassane Suhuyini, our other host. Of course, if you just join us, the Mother of All Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We are talking about national situation from two perspectives, the political situation and the national economy. Comrade took us on quite a journey. That's what he does. He usually takes you through a journey from history to economics, through politics. When he's done, you learn something new.
Right. Sana, thank you very much for the opportunity, and let me welcome you and the crew of Pan-African TV and Alhaji to the capital of the Northern region, the beautiful city, the energetic, enthusiastic city of Tamale. It's our pleasure to host Alhaji and Alhaji today. And let me make a passionate appeal to our young men and women out there, especially those who may be watching or listening to us in town, to make the effort to come to the Pekona Gardens, where they can have the opportunity to witness this happen live. I mean, there's nothing like having that live interaction. I can imagine the sort of inspiration one gets meeting people you have always listened to or watched on TV for the first time. And so it is an opportunity that should not be missed by any young man or young lady out there who is listening to us and is within the presence of Tamale. It's happening live now at the Pekona Gardens, and it will be great to interact with you all when you come, even after this show. I will stand on the earlier protocols that my big brother and member of parliament for Tamale Central opened with, and that is the deepest and sincerest respect to our chiefs as he acknowledged them, and our opinion leaders who are also gathered here to support today's program. Let me also acknowledge senior comrade Uncle Kwesi Pratt and the member of parliament for Tamale Central, Ibrahim Mohamed Mutala. Solo belongs to the butterfly movement now, and our big sister Joyce Bauer Mukhtar. Now, yes, I agree with you, Senna, when you say that the member of parliament for Tamale Central has taken us through quite a journey. And I will say he took us through the political classroom. And in order not to go through a revision of the notes that he delivered, I will take us to the political platform. So from the political classroom, it is important that we go to the political platform. Now, I am also a trained teacher. So I know that you teach from L1 to L2. Those of you who didn't go to training college, that's your wahala. You know what L1 to L2 means. But yes, you need to teach from the knowledge that no brain is empty. I mean, any person you meet has some level of knowledge. So when you are going to teach a person, you have to identify what the person knows, and then you build upon what the person knows. So in teaching, we are taught L1 is language 1 and L2 is language 2. So that is why at our basic or kindergarten level, teachers are encouraged to teach with the local language, because the child would have come from the house with some understanding in local dialect. So you teach from that understanding. If you are going to teach a broom, you just don't start teaching him broom in English. You first of all understand where to be checks on each other. I don't know how many of us have heard recently or of late, very often, in the desired dividends. I mean, I was born before the Fourth Republic, but I started perhaps understanding governance and community mobilization in the Fourth Republic. But at least I saw the semblance of military rule, even though I was not that mature, but I saw military rule. So when they talk of the effects and disadvantages of military rule, I can relate. But my younger brothers, my younger sisters, who are gradually losing confidence in the democracy, cannot relate to the alternative. And so for them, if we are not careful, they may just one day, very soon, choose to embrace that alternative. Because I can relate, and maybe my generation can relate to military rule, even as we criticize the democratic system for not delivering to its optimal level, we still are able to appreciate that it is better than the alternative. But they don't have that comparison because they didn't experience military rule. And so it will become increasingly difficult as we move forward, if we are not careful, to convince the generations that will come after us that the defects of this democracy is still serving them better than a military government would have served them. And that is why I say we are faced with a very serious threat as a country. And this threat has been made real by the misgovernance of the government in office. The palpable misgovernance. Remember, I spoke about the fact that a country's main, if you like, main political document is the Constitution. The Constitution is to guarantee the separation of powers. And the separation of powers, you know, is seen in or manifested in the operations that we encounter when we access judicial service, the legislature, and then the executive. Now, this government worked so consciously, but very incompetently, to corrupt the executive. First, what he did as president in 2017 was to appoint an unprecedented number of people as ministers. Over 120 ministers, never seen before in the Fourth Republic. Now, what they say is true, that when a fish is getting rotten, it starts from the head. What this overpopulation of the ministries did was that it dovetailed into the overpopulation of our state institutions. So you go to GMPT, you go to COCOBOD, you go to BOST, even though those institutions are beginning to run at a loss, their staff sizes have doubled. And so productivity at those places have come down. And remember, I said that the Constitution created these institutions to help propel growth of the country. But when you corrupt those institutions, like President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia did in the first year when they overpopulated the ministries, which led to the overpopulation of the institutions, you will agree with me that when you take Kparba, as we call it here in Tamale, Kparba, to a farm, that's by day workers to your farm. If you have 1 acre of land and you take 20 Kparba to the land, the productivity you will get will be less than if you took 5 or 6. I lie. It is common sense that the more people you put to do work, the higher the numbers, the less productivity you get, especially when the workload is that low. But the president told us he was in a hurry, and so he overpopulated these ministries, and then also led to the overpopulation of these institutions, which has resulted in the low productivity, which is seen in the economic numbers that we are posting. Now, for the first time, you have civil servants, CLOSAC and others, actually organizing press conferences to say that the civil service and the public service is corrupt or overpopulated, and that their work have been taken over by political apparatchiks of the ministers and the political appointees at the various institutions. We have not experienced that in the Fourth Republic before. We have never had a situation where the institutions are so tainted to the point that these people who are supposed to be non-partisan will cry out that their jobs are being taken by politicians. We've never seen it. In fact, worse is that you have a situation where the person who is responsible for paying you and I, the controller and accountant general, is now even allowed to run for a political office, and he's allowed to still be at post. I mean, these are the things that are done to further corrupt the political institution, which will eventually contribute to the loss in confidence that people are already having in the democracy. Because almost every, if you like, ethic in our democracy has been broken by the President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia government. Things that politicians were shy to do, even if they were sure they will not be found out, but they were shy to do it, they are not shy. In fact, on our way here, I was telling Comrade Gwesi Prad and Solu the number of lands that were for the West Hospital, which has been annexed by people in political office, And they are not even using pseudonyms. They are using their personal names. That's how arrogant that the power that they are enjoying have made them to begin to feel. They are corrupting almost every state agency. Look, you have a situation where the Constitution created an Auditor General's office. Now, this Auditor General's office is supposed to put politicians in check when it comes to expenditure. For example, how they utilize the taxpayers' money. So, the Auditor General audits government finances and makes recommendations and even demand paybacks where necessary. President Mahama appointed a gentleman that everybody believed was a man of his own, a very committed patron. This man, Mr. Dumolevo, began work and was impressing everybody in this country by the way he carried out audits, making sure that even timeline that I make, only for the Supreme Court to belatedly come out to tell us that the president acted against the Constitution but has no consequences to suffer. That is how people begin to lose confidence in a democracy. When independent state institutions created by the Constitution and supported by law can no longer exercise their rights to guarantee the separation of powers and to, ensure that people have confidence in the democracy, people will begin to lose confidence, and that is how the democracy becomes threatened. That's just one. Dumolevo is one. You would have considered it an isolated case and said, okay, every government have infractions. And so maybe this is an isolated case. I give you another one. He himself and his government decided that in order to continue with the lie that they told the people of Ghana about their commitment to fight corruption, they were going to set up an office known as the Special Prosecutor's Office, Office of the Special Prosecutor. He set it up. He appointed one of the people he himself believes is an independent-minded person, a no-nonsense person. That's what he told us when he was appointing him. And that no one can control him, and that he is a patriot. That's what the president told us. It doesn't matter how you and I feel, but he decided that this was the man to help him prosecute corruption. Then Martin Amidu is that man, and Martin Amidu was appointed. A few months down the line, what were we told? Martin Amidu, just like Dumolevo, perhaps made a mistake by touching one of the president's favorites again. This time, the finance minister, Ken Oforiatta. And that was the end of the marriage between him and Martin Amidu. And Martin Amidu didn't just stop there. He came out and he told us, like we are often told during the outdooring of children in the South, that he has tasted water and he has tasted alcohol. And so he knows the difference. Because according to Martin Amidu, I have seen corruption in NDC and I have seen corruption in NPP, but this man in NPP is the mother serpent of corruption. I mean, clearly, that is how people lose confidence in a democracy. Because when you ride on a campaign to fight corruption, and then you continue with that ride by setting up an office that you hope to use to set up to fight corruption, and then that person who occupies it, you projected him as an independent-minded person. And when that person, just like the Auditor General, touches your favorite, he loses favor with you. Then it further, gives credence to the reason why people begin to feel that the democracy is not serving their interests. Okay, if you say Dumolevo, it is, perhaps an accident. Then you say what's his name? Martin Amidu. Okay, it's coincidence. Should I give you a third one? Kisia Jabin. Then Kisia Jabin comes to take over from Martin Amidu. And anybody who knows Kisia Jabin knows his relationships in this country. And so clearly, just like Martin Amidu, Kisia Jabin was not expected to be a friend of the opposition. But Kisia Jabin also comes into office. And just like Dumulevo, just like Martin Amidu, his mistake too is that he touched the president darling, the sweetheart, Cecilia Dapa. You all saw the letters that they both exchanged. When Madame Cecilia Dapa matter came out, did you read the letters? The letters Madame Cecilia Dapa wrote, and the one the president wrote back. The sweetheart letters. My darling Mr. President. And then the president says, don't worry, I have confidence in you, Madame Cecilia Dapa, and I know you will be exonerated. And Kisia Jabin dares the president to go and investigate his sweetheart. Why is he surprised that he is faced with the obstacles that he is faced with? He should have learned from Domolevo, and maybe he should have learned from Martin Amidu, that this president, when you touch his favorites, you will become, what's the name? What's the name? My tree is very bad. Ankwa Noma. Yes. When you touch the president's favorite, you become Ankwa Noma. Because that's what Kisia Jabin has told us he has become. But don't forget that even Martin Amidu, when he was also about to resign, also told us that he felt his life was in danger. And that with the passing of Jerry Rawlings, he did not have anywhere to hide again. So it was better for him to leave. So when you corrupt or act in ways that the judiciary is not living up to its expectation. It's one of the most corrupt institutions. One of the most politically manipulated institutions. I'm not just saying it based on political, expediency. I'm saying it based also on research that has been conducted by researchers. That it is politically manipulated. Even if you cannot read the research, can't you see again that the courts are being populated by people who are affiliated to the New Patriotic Party? Not just affiliated, in fact, members. Because if you talk about affiliation, you can expect some level of independence and impartiality from them when cases appear before them. But we are talking about card-bearing members. Never done before. I mean, in the past, President Mahama was criticized for appointing an active political person. Not because the person was from his party. The person had served in another party, had worked actively in PNC, but not in NDC. And so President Mahama appointed that person to the bench. And Nana Akufo-Addo and his cousins, Gabi leading the charge, criticized President Mahama for appointing someone who had done active politics onto the bench. But look at what they have done. They have actually appointed a former chairman of the New Patriotic Party in a constituency in the Volta region to the Supreme Court. That person was not only a former chairman. From chairman, he rose to become a parliamentary candidate of the NPP. And Nana Akufo-Addo, together with Gabi, who criticized appointment of politically active people in the past, today see nothing wrong with appointing their own party member onto the bench. And look at the swearing-ins that are done on a daily basis. Supreme Court, Appeals Court, Court of whatever. They are packing the courts up. And maybe it's because they know what they have done. and they want to avoid accountability. But let me serve this notice that His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, working with a team of crack brains that put together this constitution, will not only be rescuing this country, but will also ensure that from 2025, people will account for all their misdeeds and their corrupt activities. No matter how they pack the courts, they will still not get away with the loot. They will still not get away with the, destruction that has been caused by their misgovernance. That I can guarantee you. After all, why? The NDC crafted the constitution. They put the constitution together. The NDC, through the People's Tribunal, have done it before. And anybody who studies the constitution properly will tell you that the court systems as we have it now are not the only way that you can find justice for the people. And I am giving you an assurance, without going into the details, that no matter how they pack the courts, the NDC from 2025 will find a way legally acceptable, constitutionally endorsed, to get them to account for every misdeed and every misgovernance. Because the people of Ghana deserve that. The people of Ghana, if for nothing at all, deserve to see people being held accountable for the pain and suffering that they have been put through in the last 7 years. Forget about the disappointment. Because for me, even when I criticized President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in the past, and when I was so convinced that they could not govern better than President Mahama, I didn't expect them to fail as remarkably as they have failed. And that is, I'm sure, one of the reasons why their own people are beginning to dissociate themselves and shun them and run away from them. I mean, who didn't hear Professor Stephen Adai before the 2016 general elections? What song is he singing today? What song is he singing today? And many of his type are beginning to even be shocked at their level of incompetence and non-performance. So, if for nothing at all, the pain, the unprecedented level of destruction that they have done to this nation, we should make them pay for it. Look, Comrade Mutala touched a little on the economy. Look at the economic indicators. And you see, they behave like the spoiled child who inherited wealth when they came into office. You know, the most difficult period for those of us in the north who are used to farming practices is this season. The most difficult period in farming is this season, the land preparation season. This is the dry season. So even when you get up now and you are going to the farm, people are wondering why you are going to the farm. But if you don't go now, when the rain starts, you will not know where to go. Ally? Yes. So President Mahama, when he was in office, did that land preparation. We were faced with an energy crisis. An energy crisis that Jerry Rawlings was faced with. An energy crisis that President Kufuor was faced with. And that is why he brought in the toy generators. You remember, Ureku Bobke called them toy generators. An energy crisis that President Mills was faced with. An energy crisis that got worse because of consistent neglect to that sector under President Mahama. Being the responsible leader that he is, he did not manage the problem like his predecessors did. He made a pledge to the people of Ghana to fix the problem. And the problem was three, layers. You had the financial problem, you had the fuel problem, and then you had the generation deficit. He set out to bring in power generators, the car power, the Ameri, and others, and to fast-track others on board to fix the generation problem. Then the financial problem. In an election year, even when it was a threat to his re-election, he recognized that leaders don't take pleasant decisions. They take decisions that fruits are felt later by people. He passed the ESLA levy, which was to bring the levy to solve the financial problem, and brought in the generators to solve the generation problem. And that put the country now on the pedestal of growth. So around that time, World Economic Analysts predicted that given the work that President Mahama and his team had done in 2016, that the economy was going to grow by about 9% in 2017. And I'm telling you about what I mean when I say they behave like the spoiled child that inherited wealth. So given the hard work President Mahama did, and Comrade Mutala also spoke about the import levy, the importation of sugar, tomatoes, and poultry products. President Mahama at the time identified again that we're importing sugar. We're using about $300 million a year to import sugar. And he said that was having an impact on our exchange rate. Because if we could conserve $300 million in this country, we will not need that to bring in sugar. So in order to solve that problem, a thinker that he was, the visionary that he was, he set out to set up the Commander Sugar Factory. And the Commander Sugar Factory would have ensured, just like the Ghana gas, that we would have produced our own sugar, would have saved hard-earned foreign currency. So they came to inherit all of this. And so by 2017-2018, they were, like I said, behaving like the child who inherited wealth that the parents left behind. They did not know the hard work that went into the creation of that wealth. So 2017, Ghana's economy grows by 8%. This is your kai po puzurna zungo kachi kachel na ntanye to abiakatanga ma yengnem na ko endirma kalara shepu bendira ko sa antlam payu na ka banganji wahala chel jilena. Is that not correct? Yes. So when they came in 2017, without doing any work, by just sitting in the office, the Ghana's economy, like the analysts predicted in 2016, grew by about 8%. They said, we are the best managers of the economy. 2018, it was still growing because Kambongma Dana Kupalme. I'm speaking in Tamale. So if you don't know Kambong, I'm sorry. So by 2019, Kambongma Karapili Swasibu.